Knocks at the door. We all know the sound. Sometimes it's expected, a friend, a delivery, a neighbor. But what about when it comes late at night? When the world outside is quiet, the streets are empty, and no one should be there. That's when a knock becomes more than just a sound. It's a question. Who's out there? Why are they here? And what do they really want? Tonight, we dive into 3 true stories of strangers who knocked at night, true horror stories, true scary horror stories, Home Alone horror stories for sleep, scary stories animated, haunted tales, chilling scares, nightmare tales, and urban fright. These aren't just ghost stories or urban legends. They are true stories, eerie encounters, and terrifying tales of strangers who showed up when the world was asleep. If you love creepy stories, paranormal experiences, haunted stories, scary animations, haunted tales, dark folklore, and nightmare stories, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't the knock itself. It's what's waiting after you answer. This story is about the man at the window. Nora was a college student renting a small house off campus. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheap, and for her, it was perfect. Her classes ran late, and most nights she stayed up studying past midnight. One chilly November evening, she heard it, 3 faint knocks. Knock, knock, knock. They came from the front door. She froze. No one ever visited her at night. Cautiously, she peered through the peephole. Nothing. Only the shadow of the porch light swaying in the wind. She exhaled and turned away. Then, another knock, but softer, this time coming from her bedroom window. Her stomach dropped. Slowly, she pulled back the curtain. Standing just outside, half hidden in the dark, was a man she had never seen before. His face pressed close to the glass, his hand resting gently against it as if waiting for her to open. She stumbled back. The man smiled. Not a friendly smile, but something stretched, unnatural, almost daring her to scream. Nora dialed 911, her hands shaking. The operator stayed on the line until police arrived. When they searched the yard, they found footprints circling her house, over and over, like the man had been pacing for hours. But the stranger was gone. A week later, Nora thought it was over. Until she woke one night to soft knocking again. Not on her window. This time, it came from inside the house. From her bedroom closet. When police arrived, they found no one. But behind a loose panel in the closet wall, they discovered a narrow crawlspace. Inside were food wrappers, an old sleeping bag, and a Polaroid of Nora sleeping in her bed. To this day, Nora says she never sleeps without every light on, because she knows some haunted tales, creepy stories, and nightmare tales don't end when the knocking stops. They only pause, until the stranger decides to come back. Even after she moved out, the sense of being watched never left her. At her new apartment, she began finding small, unsettling signs, her textbook stacked neatly on her desk when she was sure she had left them scattered, or her blinds half opened when she always kept them shut tight. These eerie experiences kept her on edge, turning even ordinary nights into chilling scares. One evening, she returned from class to find a single Polaroid sitting on her pillow. It showed the front of her new apartment, taken from the street. The photo had no note, but on the back was a smudged fingerprint, almost identical to the ones found on her old window. Nora realized that she hadn't escaped him, she had only moved farther away from the crawlspace where he used to hide. Her friends tried to convince her it was paranoia, but the haunting sense of being followed grew stronger. Sometimes, while on the phone late at night, she swore she could hear faint static, like someone was listening on another line. Other times, she woke to faint knocks echoing through her dreams, a strange rhythm that left her doubting whether it was sleep paralysis or something truly paranormal. Now, years later, Nora tells people her story as a warning. She says not all true scary horror stories, and haunted tales end with the police catching the intruder. Sometimes the stranger remains a shadow in your life, slipping through the cracks, waiting for the right night to knock again. Because the scariest monsters aren't always ghosts or urban legends. Sometimes, they're the strangers who never stop looking for a way back in. This story is about the child who knocked. Kevin was a single father raising his daughter in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Life was simple, predictable, until one summer night when everything changed. It was 2 a.m. when the knock came. Light, rhythmic, like tiny fists tapping gently at the door. Kevin assumed it was a prank, maybe kids from the block. But when he opened the door, his blood ran cold. A little girl stood on the porch. She was pale, barefoot, her hair tangled. She couldn't have been more than 8. "Can I come in?" she whispered. Kevin knelt down. "Sweetheart, are you lost?" But her eyes, huge, glassy, almost too dark, stared through him, unblinking. "Can I come in?" she repeated. Something in Kevin screamed not to let her inside. He told her he would call the police to help. The moment he said it, the girl's face twisted into something he swears no child could make. Her mouth curled into a wide grin, her teeth sharp in the porch light. She knocked again, harder this time. The sound echoed, louder than her small fists should have been able to make. Kevin slammed the door. He called 911, voice trembling. When police arrived minutes later, the porch was empty. But the officer who checked the yard came back pale. He said there were no child-sized footprints, only large ones, circling the house, leading back into the woods. Weeks passed, but Kevin's daughter began waking up screaming at night. She told him about the girl who kept tapping at her window, whispering, "Let me in." One morning, Kevin found muddy handprints smeared across the outside of his daughter's bedroom glass. Too high for a child to reach. Neighbors whispered about dark folklore, urban legends, haunted stories, and eerie encounters, something about the child who knocks being an omen. But for Kevin, it wasn't just folklore. It was real. And it still haunts him every night he hears the faintest sound against the glass. As the months dragged on, Kevin began noticing other strange signs. Toys his daughter had outgrown started appearing neatly arranged in her room, dolls she hadn't owned in years, placed carefully along her windowsill as if waiting for someone. Each time he asked where they came from, she would only whisper, "She brought them." These eerie experiences filled Kevin with dread, convincing him that something supernatural had attached itself to their home. One night, as he dozed off in the living room, Kevin woke to the sound of a lullaby humming through the walls. It wasn't his daughter, it was coming from outside. He crept to the window and saw the pale figure of the girl again, standing under the street lamp, her head tilted back as she sang into the night. The moment he blinked, she vanished, leaving only the faint echo of her voice. Things escalated when Kevin discovered deep scratches along the wooden frame of his front door, like someone had been clawing to get inside. Each morning, new marks appeared, sharper and deeper, as if the knocking child was growing more desperate. These terrifying tales made Kevin wonder if what he faced wasn't just a spirit, but something darker, something that could cross between true horror stories, paranormal hauntings, and nightmare tales. Now, Kevin never lets his daughter sleep without the curtains drawn and the lights on. But even with every precaution, he sometimes wakes to the soft sound of tapping, always 3 knocks, always patient, always waiting. And he knows one night, if he ever opens the door, the child won't be alone. Because in haunted tales, creepy stories, and true scary horror stories, the ones who knock never come as just children. They come carrying something far worse. This story is about the stranger in the woods. Marcus was driving home late one night after visiting friends. His route cut through a long stretch of country road lined with woods. No streetlights, no houses, just black trees and the hum of his tires. Around 1 a.m., his headlights caught movement ahead. A figure standing on the roadside. As he slowed, the figure stepped forward and raised a hand. Not waving. Knocking. 3 deliberate knocks, on nothing, in the air, as if against an invisible door. Marcus's stomach twisted. He hit the gas, speeding past. But when he glanced in his rearview mirror, the figure was gone. Relieved, he drove faster. Then came a sound from his passenger side window, knock, knock, knock. Marcus swerved, heart pounding. No one was there. Only the empty road. He pulled over, trembling. The silence pressed in. Then, knock knock knock, this time from his back seat. He spun around. Nothing. Just shadows. When he finally made it home, he rushed inside, locking every door. But as he turned out the lights, his front door rattled. 3 sharp knocks. He froze, staring. Slowly, the knocking moved, first to the side window, then the back door, circling his house. Always 3 knocks. Always steady. By sunrise, the noise stopped. Exhausted, Marcus opened the door. On the porch sat a small object, an old wooden door knocker, rusted and broken, its handle shaped like a hand. Local stories say that when the stranger in the woods chooses you, he follows until you answer. Marcus swears he never will. But sometimes, late at night, he still hears it. Knock, knock, knock. And in the world of true scary horror stories, paranormal horrors, haunted tales, terrifying tales, and urban fright, some doors should never be opened. But Marcus's nightmare didn't end there. Weeks later, while driving the same stretch of road, his radio cut to static. Through the noise came a faint sound, 3 knocks, perfectly in rhythm with the ones he heard before. Shaken, he shut the radio off, but the knocking continued, echoing faintly from the roof of his car until he reached home. These chilling scares made him realize the stranger hadn't been left behind. He had been invited to follow. One night, he found muddy footprints leading up to his back porch. Not boots, not bare feet, something in between, long and narrow, with claw-like imprints at the tips. He cleaned them away, but the next morning they were back, this time circling his house like before. That eerie experience left Marcus terrified to even glance out the window after dark. The worst moment came when Marcus's phone buzzed at 3:03 a.m. with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of his own front door, taken from the outside. In the corner of the image was a faint blur of a hand, curled as if mid-knock. He checked his security cameras, but the footage was blank, as though someone had erased only those minutes. Now, Marcus avoids that road entirely, but he still feels the weight of being chosen. He tells friends that once the knocking begins, it never truly stops, it only waits. Because in creepy stories, nightmare tales, haunted stories, and dark folklore, the most terrifying encounters don't happen in abandoned places. They follow you home, waiting for the night you finally answer. Strangers. They come when you least expect it. They knock when the world is quiet, when you're most vulnerable, when you think you're safe inside. In these 3 true stories of strangers who knocked at night, we've seen what happens when curiosity, kindness, or fear makes you hesitate. From the man at the window, to the child who wasn't what she seemed, to the stranger in the woods, these true stories, chilling scares, haunted stories, and nightmare tales remind us, sometimes the knock is the warning. So the next time you hear it, soft, steady, deliberate, ask yourself, will you open the door? Or will you sit in silence, praying it goes away? If you enjoyed these true horror stories, haunted tales, scary stories, animated, eerie experiences, sleep paralysis encounters, and terrifying urban legends, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop your own creepy stories in the comments. Because in the end, the scariest knocks aren't just at the door. They're the ones echoing in your head long after the night has gone quiet.